What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So the Nikita Zadorov sweepstakes that were probably honestly bigger than the Patrick Kane ones in terms of teams actually interested has finally come to an end. He is heading to the Vancouver Canucks for a third and a fifth round pick. I want to talk about this deal, how it transpired, how I think it impacts the Canucks. Spoiler alert, it's good. How it impacts the Flames. Spoiler alert, I am not too encouraged by the Flames with this move, and just overall what it means in some of the other teams that may have missed out on him. So obviously, Zadorov heading to the Canucks, and how this started was on, Tuesday night, a trade went down. Anthony Beauvillier was traded from the Vancouver Canucks to the Chicago Blackhawks for a fifth round pick, basically in a cap dump deal, getting rid of his $4.15 million cap hit. I really like the deal for the Vancouver Canucks. I thought they were going to have to give up like a third or fourth attached to Beauvillier because he has not really produced. I believe he has like 8 points in 22 games. Very streaky player. I told you when he got traded with the Bo Horvat package. Fine third liner. So he got traded over to Chicago. They opened up $4.15 million. Chicago got someone to play with Bedard, and they quickly utilized that $4.15 million. I think it's evident that they maybe didn't have the Zadorov deal finalized, but they were very far along in the process in terms of getting something done if they pulled the trigger on that trade. And yeah, they clearly did trade for Nikita Zadorov, basically swapped a third round pick in Anthony Beauvillier for Nikita Zadorov, and actually saved, I think, on top of that, like $0.3 million. Fantastic work by Patrick Allvin, because when you look at Zadorov, not anything fantastic. I'm not going to try to blow him out of the water and say that he's a legit, look at his face in that he's a legit first pairing guy. He's very much a third pairing, solid, reliable defensive defenseman. Yes, he does need to stay out of the box. He takes some penalties from time to time, but the dude can get you 180 hits on any given season and be pretty decent third pair defenseman in not massive minutes, but he can kill penalties. He can play defense. He's an ideal player that a championship contender wants on their third pair. They don't want some flashy offensive defenseman on their third pair. They want some stay-at-home defenseman that can really hold it down, protect the lead in the playoffs. And that's what the Canucks are getting. And especially when you consider Carson Soucy is out for, I think, another 4 to 6 weeks. It's been 2 weeks since he got hurt. He was out 6 to 8 weeks. You do the math. He's going to come in and play a pretty decent role for them. Right now, the Canucks blue line is not that impressive right now. I think he legitimately has a case to be the third, maybe fourth defenseman on this team. Yes, he is a left-handed defenseman, so I think that they might put Hronek back with Hughes and then slide up Ian Cole, or honestly just insert Zadorov there. But yeah, honestly, although the Flames are definitely a worse team than the Canucks, I think he's actually going to have a bigger role just because the Flames have Hanifin, Tanev, Weegar, Zadorov. Like he immediately really walks in, and he's probably going to play at least the start until Soucy gets back, obviously. He's going to play some decent minutes. Obviously, you're not getting a lot of offense from him. He had 6 points in 21 games. Last year, he did have 14 goals and 7 assists across the season. He is a pretty decent... He has a decent shot, but you can't really expect much defense. But the Canucks... You can't expect much offense, but the Canucks don't need offense. They need shutdown defensemen. Demko has really been not standing on his head, but he's been playing great. But once some form of regression plays and Demko doesn't play like he's the clear Vezina favorite, they're going to need guys like Zadorov to shut down high danger chances. So as long as he can stay out of the box and give them 18, 19 solid minutes, this is a fantastic deal for them. You only give up a third round pick and a fifth round pick that you got 48 hours ago in the Beauvillier trade. I really like the value in this. Now, the Canucks don't have their second round pick this year because they traded that pick in the Jason Dickinson trade back before the 2022 season. So they have a first, they have their own third because this was a 2026 third that they traded. So a goddamn 15-year-old or something. So they have a first, a third, and then they actually have 2 fourths from the Curtis Lazar trade back at last year's deadline. So they still can go out, assuming they're in a playoff spot, and trade that first round pick on top of already getting Zadorov. Now, when looking at the Calgary Flames, it's obviously a little bit more pessimistic in terms of this return. You were never getting a first round pick unless you retained half his salary. Even then, you weren't getting a first round pick. But I think that this is a pretty disappointing return, man. A third and a fifth, and especially a third in 2026. you're not using that anytime soon. You're not drafting a player. By then, you'll be coming out of your rebuild, and the Canucks will probably still be around the playoff team. It's just not. It's not that much value. I thought they should have been able to get at least a second-round pick in terms of a guy like Zadorov, and especially considering, although he did want out, that is a massive factor in this that did rush along the process. I think, not that it totally offset it, but the fact that he wanted out early, this wasn't like it was February 15th and he wanted out right before the deadline. Someone is getting him. The Vancouver Canucks are getting him for like 55, actually 60 games. So they're getting him for 3/4 of the season. You're telling me a not lockdown, but a very good defensive defenseman, third pair guy can't get at least a second round pick. I know he does have somewhat of a high salary cap hit, but considering the Canucks did do the Beauvillier trade to open up that cap space, they had the cap space. I'm a little bit disappointed in terms of this return. And when you stack on top of that, Tyler Toffoli only getting a third-round pick in Yegor Sharangovich, the haul for Toffoli and Zadorov right now, it's not encouraging, man. It's not encouraging. Let me just flash this back again. They didn't get a single second-round pick or a good prospect or a promising prospect in those deals. Those third-round picks probably have, between the two of them combined, probably like a 30% chance to get a guy that even plays over 250 NHL games. That's what the data tells us. Sharangovich, he's okay, but he is what he is at this point. He's 25 years old. He can maybe be a 40 to 45 point guy, which does have some value, but if the Flames are entering a rebuild, a 25-year-old doesn't have that much value going forward. So I'm concerned, and if you're a Flames fan, I think you do need to be a little bit worried about what Elias Lindholm and Noah Hannafin will get them at this point. I previously thought a first-round pick, maybe a little bit more. You look at a Claude Giroux kind of thing where they got a first-round pick and an Owen Tippett on top of that. That's what I was thinking, at least for Lindholm. Probably Hannafin, roughly the same. I don't know. Like, if they only get a second-round pick for one of those guys, I would revolt if I was a Flames fan. I'm not predicting that to happen, but instead of a first and a prospect or a first and a very good young player, Tippett's now a very good young player, but back when he was on Florida, he was kind of thrown in that bottom six role. But do they just get a first now? I'm concerned. If I'm a Flames fan, I'm kind of concerned with the value because this trade wasn't that bad. The Toffoli one, that's where it was like third-round pick in Yegor Sharangovich, a 25-year-old. Like that was very bad in my opinion. I think this one is more reasonable. He is a third-pairing guy. You should have got a second-round pick. It is what it is. But going forward, they really need to hit it out of the park with the Lindholm and Hannafin trade because if they just walk away with a first, a second, 2/3, and a fifth from those four players, Again, their supposed retool rebuild, it's going to come down to who they pick in the top 5 or top 10 the next 3 to 4 years. Every rebuild does for the most part. But if you want those complementary pieces, you need to trade your expiring deals for better contracts. It's not. I'm not ready to give up on the Calgary Flames. They do have some good young players. Zari's obviously balling out. Coronado's always balling out. But it's definitely a little bit of a shaky start to the Craig Conroy era. I don't think that's that controversial of a take. I'm not ready to say he has no chance, but learning under Brad Treliving is a little bit concerning right now. But speaking of Brad Treliving, another team that apparently wanted to get in on Zadorov and had an offer on the table was the Toronto Maple Leafs. But they apparently, according to Kevin Weeks, needed the Flames to retain salary during their pursuit of Zadorov. So they weren't able to get him. They weren't able to get him just because Toronto's up against it. I guess they weren't ready to put John Klingberg on LTI, or maybe they did already, but John Klingberg's money was kind of in limbo as of right now, so they weren't able to utilize that in terms of bringing in a Zadorov, which they're just cap tight. Steve Dangle tweets out, the Leafs are always against the cap because of the structure of their team. Every single season, they want to compete. They have to do their best leading up to the deadline, play shorthanded, use e-bugs, and pay a premium at salary retention and bleed assets annually. It sucks. Yeah, you just look at it. Canucks were smart. They realized Beauvillier, let's dump his contract. Someone's willing to give an asset up for him. Then let's do this. The Leafs don't have those kind of expiring deals, and as a result, they're not able to go out and get a Zadorov type. It stinks for them. I'm happy they didn't get Zadorov in the end. But yeah, just other teams, the Canucks played this so well in terms of they had that expiring deal. They realized, oh, this guy's out here. Zadorov's out here for the rest of the season, 60 games. let's just dump Beauvillier. He was just a little added bonus on top of the Bo Horvat trade, and they got it done. So Nikita Zadorov is a Canuck. I like it for the Canucks. I would give them an A. I would give the Flames like a C-, just because Zadorov did kind of force their hand in terms of getting traded. But overall, let me know in the comments, what do you think about this trade? Who do you think won it? What would you give them in terms of a grade? And I'll see you in the next one.